Hi everyone, this is Ginger with Gingerberry Creek, and today's tutorial is sewing a jelly roll rug. So I've already finished my fabric tube. It is wrapped up on a cord reel and it's sitting on the floor, which I will put a picture in the video here. And the next thing that we'll need to do is go ahead, and I've already done this, but you'll want to change out your needle to a I use a Microtex 8012 needle. So I've already changed mine out on my machine. The other thing I've already done is I've added my walking foot. And now what I want to do is set my machine to the zigzag stitch that's 5.5 millimeters wide by 2 millimeters long. So it's set here. Let me set my width first, and then my length is 2 millimeters. And then I need to engage my walking foot. So let me make sure that I did that. It is engaged. Okay. So now I'm going to do a test run of the zigzag stitch to make sure that my settings are correct. It's always a good idea to go ahead and do this to make sure that you have it before you start on your project. All right, so that looks correct. So we've got that. Now we need to determine the starting center of our jelly roll rug. So how you go about that is the average jelly roll rug is normally 30 inches wide by around 44 inches long. So what you would do is take that length and minus the width from it to get the starting length for measuring your starting tube here. So if you do that, that's 14 inches. So what we need to do is measure 14 inches and mark with a pen that starting point. So I'm measuring from this blunt end down to this ruler only goes to 12 inches. So I'm going to mark it, and then I'm going to measure another 2 inches and mark it here. So now we have our starting length. This is different than what's in the original pattern. So, but this is going to be my starting length on this particular rug. So now what you want to do is have your double folded edge to the inside. And I'm going to go ahead and move this pin to the top here. And now I'm going to, well, before I do this, I'm going to show you on a piece of paper how we're going to fold this. So here's a strip of paper that mimics what we've got. To the point of it's got the folds, so like the batting would be inside. So the double fold edge is on this side. So so on here, I measured down 5 inches. And the first fold that you make is going to be over at that 5-inch mark. Or on this jelly roll rug, we're going to do 14. And then we're going to fold it over again, so the second fold, to make this point. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sew down this edge here and then down, and then we're going to fold the strip under and under, and then if you'll notice, the double folded edge is now against the single fold edge. So that's what we're going to mimic. We're going to mimic this in our rug. So I've got my double fold inward. So I'm going to fold over at this mark at my pin here. And then I'm going to fold over again. And after you do the folds, you could go ahead and press this to help it stay. You could do that if you want to. I don't. So what we have here are the two double folds are now together, and we will fix this with our next fold. So at this point, we're going to sew across and then down. So I'm going to go ahead and start that. You might want to pin the first little bit just to hold it for you. All right. Now, if it is a little bulky here, so you may want to have one of these sewing stilettos to help kind of get the fabric up under that presser foot. And go slow, because we want to get on both sides of the seam there, or that edge. All right, now what I'm going to do is lift my presser foot. I'm going to turn and make sure that I'm at the center to start zigzagging down this center, which I am. And now we're going to zigzag down until we get close to doing the next fold. There, I had to guide it to get it past that kind of hump in the. Just go slow. We're catching, so the machine is stitching from this side and then over. So we want to make sure that when you're stitching, that your stitch is catching on this side and then it's going over and catching this side. So at first I will go slow. If you've not made one, just go slow. There's no need to be in a big hurry when making your jelly roll rug. So I'm just going to continue, and all I'm doing is I'm not pushing it or pulling it. I'm just pushing the tube together. Before we get too far down, I'm going to go a little bit further here, and then we're going to go ahead and make these folds on this other end. So remember, we did over and over. So this time we need to fold under. So here's my first under, and I'm going to put a pin here to hold it. There we go. So we did under, and then we have to do under again. All right, so we did under, and if you notice that when we get ready to come down this side, the double fold will be against my single fold edge here. So now what you're going to do is just go ahead and stitch, continue stitching across this here, these two here. And when we get right down here to this corner, then we're going to lift the presser foot and sew down, and then begin the next length. This is a different start than what is actually in the pattern. That's why it's called the modified start method. I will be doing a tutorial on how to do the original start, if that's how you would prefer to start your jelly roll rug. So you'll need to stay tuned for that one. All right, so I've got down, I'm going to take one more stitch over, and now I'm going to turn, lift my presser foot and turn so that I can come down this edge. This is where your the blunt end of your fabric tube is at. So now we're going to stitch straight down till this next seam area here. And like I said, just go slow. Don't want to break a needle or anything like that. All right. Now I'm ready to lift my presser foot, and we're going to bring this so that we can start stitching the tube down. And like I said, here's the single fold and my double fold. The rope is on the right side, and that way as you sew, the rug will grow outward to your left, and not bunch up underneath your machine. All right, let's continue. we're coming down to the first corner. I'm going to clip my thread there. And now what we'll need to do is we need to bring our fabric tube around. So we're going to need to probably pin this and maybe press this as we do. So the best thing to do is have some pins ready. And I'm going to go ahead and start pinning here to help hold it. All right. So you kind of see where it kind of pleats up around this corner. That's okay. There's no other way to do it than to kind of squish it together and then pin it. And you might want to press it after you get it pinned to kind of help hold it in place. So you'll just need to do a bunch of pinning. So you kind of bunch it up and gather it like this until it's kind of around this first curve. So that's kind of what you need to have, and then let it kind of straighten out as it goes down this straightaway. So I'm going to go ahead and place another pin just like that. So this is how it's going to be tight, and that's why sometimes it's good to go ahead and press that to hold it. I'm going to go ahead and continue stitching, and then just kind of go really slow around these first couple of curves, making sure that you're catching, both sides of the fabric tube. I'm just going to lift and kind of move over. And then begin stitching again. Just wanted to make sure I was in the right position to catch both of the fabric tubes. And if you need to keep lifting and moving it, that's okay. If you need to use your stiletto or sewing awl to help hold the piece together, that's okay too. You hear it kind of going through that fabric. It's a lot of fabric bunched together. All right, so I readjusted as I was going around that curve. I'd lift that presser foot, move my tube around, and then readjust. So now we're almost here to the straightaway. So we will, there we go. Keep going. I go pretty slow around those curves because you just don't know. It gets kind of bunchy up under there. So now I'm just going to keep going now down the straightaway. And then we're going to do the same thing around this next curve. The first couple of curves are the roughest, and then it'll ease up because, you know, the curve gets bigger and bigger. So it's easier to maneuver around it. All right, so here we are at the other curve already, and now we need to do the same thing. We need to, you can see this one's a little bit wider, so we need to bring it around and bunch it together. So best to start with pins here. I like to kind of still pin in the straightaway. Makes it easier, and then start bringing in the tube around this curve. Just like this. Again, you may want to go ahead and press this once you have it pinned. That is totally up to you, how you want to deal with that. It depends on the fabric too, the fabric that you're using. Some you might want to press just to help it some. So use as many pins as you need to hold it in place, and try to stay as flat as possible still without it, you know, like wanting to curl up. All right, it looks like I've got it all here. I'm going to continue stitching and then kind of show you what we've done. right, we're getting close to the straightaway again. All right. So then you would continue just pressing this here along your edge. But here's our first corner, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue stitching down this edge, and I'll show you the other. We'll get around this next corner and then I can show you the second bunched corner. And like I said, it does get easier around these curves. And I am not pushing or pulling, I'm letting my walking foot kind of pull the fabric in and stitching, so that will help it stay flat. All right, here we are at this corner again, or curve. So again, I'm just gonna use my pins and pin around this one as well. It makes it a lot easier if you go ahead and do it. And you see it's getting a little bit easier to do. It's not as bunched up like that first. The first one is the most bunching. All right, about ready to sew again. So there we go. We got this corner ready. So I'm just gonna continue sewing and get around this curve, and I'll show you how that next one should be quite a bit easier. It really does get easier. So got a few more stitches around this curve, and then we'll be back again at this straightaway. All right. Clean up a couple of things here. There we go. That way I don't have a lot to clip later. All right, so now we're back around here on this straightaway. Let's go a little further and I'll show you this other corner. And you can see here's our other corner that we had done previously. Turned out well. We're just going to keep going around and around until it's all sewn together. And you may want to, from time to time, stop, take your rug out, and take it over and press it if it needs it to help it, you know, with the stitching and the fabric. So here we are again. I'm going to go ahead and pin this one. This one you see is a lot easier. It's not as scrunched up, but I am still going to kind of pin it down just to help as I'm sewing. But this one is a lot less gathered than this corner, or this curve here is a lot less gathering of the fabric. So that's why I said at each one it does get easier and easier. All right. I'm just straightening out a little bit there. Because sometimes the pins may want to pull apart, you know, pull away from where you pinned it. So I stop and I use my sewing awl to kind of push the fabric back together. All right, we're just about done with this corner. You kind of hear it when it is scrunched up like that, the needle pushing through, and then it eases up when it is done around that kind of bunched corner. All right. So now we're in the straightaway again. And here's what this corner look like here. So this is what you'll keep doing until you finish your whole rug. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to keep sewing the tube to itself all the way around until I'm completely done. All right, I hope you enjoy this. As you see this rug grow bigger and bigger, it's a great sight to see. All right, I want to explain a little something right here at this point. As this gets bigger, you got to be careful about it wanting to cup. You know, it'll start to curl up on the edges here or get ripply. So if the best thing to do is when you're going around these curves is to try to lay the fabric tube flat against it and ease in a little bit more fabric around these curves to allow it to stay flat. So that's kind of what I do. And if you need to pin, you know, and kind of do each round like that, that's totally fine. That's, you know, a good way of going about it, to pin it, make sure it's laying flat, you know, and then continue sewing, because otherwise you may end up having to rip it all out. And if you do notice that it starts to get wavy at this point and as it's growing, the best thing to do is to go ahead, stop immediately, rip it out until it lays flat like it is right here, and then pin and sew to make sure that it's laying flat. But as you can see, there's a little extra fabric right here around this curve. So, and that's just so that it continues to lay flat. Now, be careful not to get put in, it's a fine line of easing in some and putting in too much, because it can have the same effect. If you put in too much, it's going to want to get wavy on you. If you're not putting in enough, then it's going to give you that cup shape or start to take on a bowl look. So, but just kind of make sure it's laying flat on its own before you're even sewing. So here I just kind of pinned a little bit to show you, and then I'm just going to keep sewing. I will be doing another tutorial on how to fix your rug if it's, you know, started getting wavy or ripply, and how to kind of tear it out and go back to easing in the fabric and stuff. A little kind of FYI on how to go about it, so stay tuned for that one as well. So I'm just gonna ease in a little more fabric. If you have to pin, it's okay, don't worry about it. The other thing I want to mention is that as you're sewing this and your rug starts to get bigger, you need to have a flat surface to begin with. And as you're sewing this tube around it, your rug's getting bigger. So if by chance your kind of workspace isn't big enough to hold the whole thing flat, then it is okay to fold the rug on itself, because what you don't want to do is to have it hang off the edge of the workspace, because what ends up happening is the weight of the rug will pull at it as you're stitching. So then you're pulling and stretching that rug, and it doesn't need it. That's not what you need to do with it. You need to have it on a flat surface where the weight is completely supported. So if that's happening and you just don't have a big enough space, go ahead and fold it on itself to relieve the weight, so that it's completely on your flat work surface. As this gets bigger, I will be doing that to help keep it from pulling while I'm sewing. And, you know, sometimes sitting close to the sewing machine, you also need to, you know, like push it down or pull it up and lay it on itself to get it out of the way so it's not up against you. That's all okay to do. It won't hurt anything. It's better if you do fold it up to help with the weight of the rug, because as it grows, it's getting heavier and heavier. So again, I'm just gonna I'm not really pinning as much anymore because these curves are getting bigger, but you know, if you need to hold it while you sew around it, that is fine. It's better to do that than to have to spend a while ripping this out. All right, I'm just gonna continue stitching, and if I run into anything here that I need to let you know, I definitely will, but otherwise we're just gonna keep sewing. Actually, I did think of something else. If you find that your rug is starting to get like a bean shape to it, like a jelly bean, go ahead and straighten it out. Get it straight before you continue sewing. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a bean shaped or a jelly bean shaped rug, which, you know, is not that big of a deal, but if you know, it's obviously up to each person what they like. In fact, it might look pretty cool, but I just wanted to let you know that if you find that one end of your rug is wanting to kind of shift, try to straighten it up as you're sewing. That will help keep it from making that shape. All right, so now I'm just going to keep sewing until we're done. Okay, I just had to stop to change my bobbin thread out. So now what I'm going to do when I start, and this is what you're going to probably need to do if you stop and press as you go, and go ahead and clip the threads. Go press your jelly roll rug, then come back and then do kind of what I'm getting ready to do here. Is I'm gonna start a little bit in from where I left off. I'm gonna go ahead and go forward a few stitches. I am going to go ahead and back stitch on this, and then I'll continue forward. So let me get lined back up. All right, so like I said, I'm gonna stitch forward a little bit, and then I'm gonna go ahead and back stitch. I just personally like to do it this way to help lock in those stitches when you stop. That way, you know, there's not a chance that they're gonna unravel and come loose, especially during washing. So I think it's a good idea to, at the, you know, beginning, to go ahead and back stitch a little bit, just for durability's sake. And as you can see, as my rug is growing, like I said, I'm having to fold it out of the way to keep it from going over the edge or, you know, bumping into me next to the sewing machine. And that's okay, because the weight is still on the table, the flat surface, and not hanging off of the edge, which would pull and stretch those stitches and cause some of the waviness to happen. So, all right, I'm just going to continue doing what we've been doing. The other thing that you may, as your, you know, rug grows, I like to put on, I have these little gloves here, and it allows my my thumb and my one index finger to be exposed. Well, I've got grippers on the other side. It will help me grip the rug and turn it, or, you know, guide it while it's being stitched. I find that this helps me out a lot, especially as this grows. It's easier to maneuver when you've got little grippers on your gloves here. So I have these. I know they're full. There's some that are full gloves, whatever you prefer. But I'm going to put mine on to start helping me as this is growing. And then that way I still have these to feel with if I need to. So let's keep going. Okay, we are coming to the end of our rug. So I'm just going to keep stitching. And then when I get down here towards the end, I didn't taper this end. I leave mine blunt like this, and then I put a tag that has Gingerberry Creek logo, and it also has the washing or laundry care instructions on it. But if you tapered this end, you would just keep going. And then I'm going to back stitch just to hold these stitches, and then I'll place my tag later. And we'll take a look at this rug now that we're about done here. Alright, so I'm just going to go a little bit slower. And then when I get to the end here, I'm going to back stitch. Alright. Okay. And then we are done with the sewing of the fabric tube together. So I'm going to open it up here and show you what it looks like. I have to flatten it out because of all of the folding, and I normally press it after it's all done. There it is, all finished. And after I spread it out, it looks really good. I'm still gonna press it. I like to spray some starch on it, and press each side like that, and then I will finish up with my tag. Alright, well, we have sewn a jelly roll rug from start to finish, and I hope it's been helpful and you've learned a lot during the process. I really appreciate you watching, and please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Bye.